Okay, so next up, I'm striking while the iron's hot right now
Hmm.
as I'm reviewing Final Fantasy VII, the 1997 classic.
The remake?
Nope. But with the remake news, it prompted me to beat the game, which I've been chipping away at this game since like 2018. Like, this is this is kind of how I operate when I play games that like I haven't been waiting for, where I'm just casually playing them. I will play them very slowly.
Yeah,
Um,
and I didn't know until recently, like this month, that it was your first time playing this game.
It was. I know a lot about it, but I was
I,
surprised how little I knew. I thought I knew a lot, but I
yeah,
didn't.
like there were some moments where you got to them and you're like, "Holy shit, this game came out in 1997. Why is this so good?"
And there was moments where I was like, why does no one ever talk about this part? They just talk about some of the stuff I'll mention, but there's just so much stuff to talk about that I'll have to do a play by play of my emotions. But there's just so much. I'll have to cut some of this out. But
I've never played any of Final Fantasy VII.
I think Seven is a really good game to jump on. But you'd
It's
have
not a classic for no reason.
you know how people say that like Ocarina of Time is the best game ever, and it's like, well, I mean, other Zeldas do what Ocarina does, but they have like tighter controls and arguably better stories. It's interchangeable, but like story is never big in Zelda.
Yeah.
But they have similar mechanics and dungeon designs. I'd say with Seven, it's like this story holds up to this day, and no other Final Fantasy did this exact same style of gameplay. So I think it still has a lot of merit for someone to say, if someone says this is the best game ever to them, I'd be like, that's not 100% nostalgia talking. There's some basis there.
Like
Um,
if Final Fantasy VII came out for the first time today, but obviously with more polygons, I think it would be really well received.
yes, absolutely. And so just to let's get into it. I'll try to make this as quick as possible. Like it's amazing how much stuff is in this game, and I didn't even get to do it all. And I'll talk about the stuff that I know I missed. Now, Bradley, I know you played this, but like 6 years ago, so I'm,
Yeah.
maybe you've
So
done some stuff that I haven't, and you might remember it, but we'll see.
we'll see.
Because there's a lot of side stuff in this game, and I only did some of it.
Oh yeah, like there's like entire quest lines and mini games that you might not even know exist.
There's a lot of them that I won't. And leave in the comment if I missed something you really like, and I still have my file, so I can go do it. Um, just to set the groundwork here, I played this on the PS4, which if you were to play Final Fantasy VII today, I would totally say get it on the PS4. I'm sure the Switch version is the same. Um, and I say this because it has three features that make this tolerable to a modern player. It goes a long way to make this as good as it is. One of them is you can turn off random encounters at any point. You just have to
Bless
click in the
up.
left stick. That's
So good.
that's huge. Um, the second is you can fast forward everything by 3 times. This includes most cutscenes, moving around the world. That is a huge plus. And lastly, at any point, you can click in two sticks and you get full MP, full HP, and full limit. Which, if you want to cheese the game, you can. But also, like, the way I ended up playing is I skipped most random encounters because I'd have encounter off. And if I ever needed to grind a little bit, I would turn that on and just shoot through the grinding. So I always stayed like at a nice difficulty where everything was kind of kicking my butt, but I would like barely beat it. It was good. It lets you control the game and not have to spend like 40 hours beating it. I probably beat it under 30. I needed to
Yeah.
check.
Like you can control the way you play a little bit, and you can speed through the aspects of the game that don't really add anything, like fighting
It's,
wolf number 400.
yeah, that speaks volumes to the amount of like kind of grindy content that was prevalent back then in those single player games.
And it makes
Like,
sense because back
yeah,
then you'd buy the game and you would be 11.
yeah.
So so you'd
Well,
have
like
you'd
there were
have
also
the
30 year
time.
olds back then.
What?
There were also 30-year-olds back then. They could
Right,
complain.
but like the people who are really into this game were probably like young and they had a lot of time to
True.
burn, right?
Because this
Yeah.
game is for babies.
Well, I wouldn't say that. There's some dark shit, Bradley.
There really is.
But what I mean to say is if you don't have as much time to spend on a single game these days, like I might not have, these are perfect features to let you. It's still a lengthy game, but it'll let you enjoy it in a more digestible time. So to talk about the actual game, it starts off really strong with the Midgar section, where like that section, the pacing on that is got to be an S tier, where it just goes, man. It never stops. You just come out, you do the first bombing run mission, you have a little bit of downtime, you go do the second reactor, a little bit more downtime, you explore the city a little bit, and then you're on to Shinra Tower, and that's when the plot really kicks off, and that shuts down the Midgar section, and then you get to explore the big world. So apparently the remake, the first chapter is going to be only the Midgar section.
Which makes sense, because that's like, what, like a third of the game? Something like that?
I'd say it's like a fifth.
Something like that. I don't know.
But like they're going to expand it into a full game, which I think means like a 20-hour experience just for Midgar.
Yeah, and I know that you said, and I agree, that I hope they don't shaft the rest of the game, because
absolutely.
The rest of the game is my favorite part. And
I agree.
That doesn't come lightly, because the Midgar section is awesome.
Well, they said the first game is going to be nothing but Midgar.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
but what me and Bradley are saying is like I hope that they're not putting all this effort into Midgar and then like not putting equivalent amounts of effort to the other parts. Not that they all need to be as big as Midgar, but I hope they don't rush them, or like all the bosses and all the battles are of equivalent quality to the Midgar parts at least.
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
And Midgar makes sense to expand because there's a lot of that city you don't get to see. Several like plates and stuff. So one thing about this game, like visually, right? Everyone looks like grotesque Popeye things. Like the graphics are obviously dated. Look at a.
No, you're right.
Look at a model of fucking Cloud, and look at his dumb Popeye arms. Like they're insane.
I never heard them described like that, but it's 100% correct.
But the thing about this is the limitations of this game. It's all pre-rendered backgrounds, right? Somehow, this is a really cinematic game.
Oh, yeah.
The way that they do camera shots, like they set up the pre-rendered backgrounds, where that first iconic shot where you jump off the train and it's behind Cloud's back and you're facing the first reactor that you're going to. That's like the most iconic shot in probably all of video games.
Yeah, even if you took away how good the pre-rendered art looks, just the camera angles they chose, like I think you put it well. It's like you're watching a movie sometimes.
There is legit cinematography in this game where like the way they do the presentation, despite the dumb Popeye characters, you get so invested in it because they put so much care into it. And just right off the bat, just with the Midgar section, you can already tell. So after you beat that, you explore a little bit of the world. This is probably one of the world opens up to you. You have all these towns you can explore. The world map is not that big, but it's plenty big where like you're going to do some good exploration, and you even unlock vehicles to get around. So you get to this town called Nibelheim, which is where like, for me, this is where I was like, oh wait, this game is something seriously good.
Like, oh, there's a story here.
Right, because all this time, I never believed that this game would have such a good story. I was like, well, I mean, it's a good story, but it's from like 1997. I doubt like that the technology could keep up with the grand ideals that like a story from these days would have. No, dude, this story holds up because you get to this town and you learn about this flashback of how Cloud grew up here and he came back after he became a soldier with this awesome badass soldier with a 7-foot sword called Sephiroth. And they come to town, and Tifa's their guide, and the reactor explodes, and Sephiroth finds out that he's a descendant, like the child of Genova, which is a experiment by Hojo. There's a lot that I'm probably going to get wrong about the plot explaining it. But, like, in my mind, it makes sense to me. But either way, it's like, this is an insanely good... It's like this really long flashback story that Cloud is telling his party. The fact that he's even telling the party is just really good. I don't like in RPGs or stories where people don't tell other people important information. Or like they tell it to one party member and you're supposed to assume that the other party members got the memo later. He sits everyone down and he's like, guys, this is my backstory.
Yeah, and then you like kind of get to watch slash play through the backstory, and
Which even has Sephiroth as a party member, which is knowing that he would be the final boss. It's like, oh, that's pretty cool.
it is top 3 flashback arcs in fiction. It is.
Well,
It's pretty
hold on.
insane.
You haven't gotten to some One Piece flashbacks.
You're
'cause
right. You're right.
One Piece has top 1 through 5. So hold
One
on.
Piece flashbacks are insane.
You could instead go play Crisis Core in PSP, and that's even more of that flashback. But
That's
from-
right. That's the whole flashback game.
I think what we get from this game is perfect, and I
Yeah.
don't want any more.
Crisis Core was really fun though.
You liked it? You played that
Oh
one?
yeah, I played that whole game. That was a great game.
I've heard
It
mixed
was-
things.
It played very much like Kingdom Hearts.
Oh, you know that makes sense because I think it came around that era.
Yeah, it plays like an action RPG. But yeah,
So,
go ahead.
Hold on, you've played Crisis Core, but not 7, huh? Interesting.
Correct.
Maybe you can play the remake, or you can play this one, and you'll bridge the gap.
Maybe. Oh.
But regardless, like that was the point. The cutscene where Sephiroth finds out who he is, and he's in this library. Like, there's this time lapse of him reading books and like walking around the library, and like it's such a good way to show that he was like cooped up in there for days. And then he comes out and he burns the entire city. It's like that is such a good way to set up your villain. That scene of him in the fire. I don't care how bad the graphics were back then. That visual speaks for itself.
Oh
It's
yeah, like
so
as
powerful.
you know, grainy and polygonal as the graphics are, it really sticks with you. Like I can still see it all these years later.
And all this stuff I'm saying, like it goes without saying that all of this adapted in this gorgeous art style of the remake has me very excited.
Oh, it's gonna be so cool.
Okay.
Well, what's funny is you in Crisis Core you play as someone that's not Cloud. His name is Zach.
Right, I'll get to Zach later.
Yeah, but like it's funny because like they don't give you any of that backstory in the game because you're off doing something else. So you just come back to Sephiroth, just burn the place to the ground. You're like, what the fuck is happening?
That's
Yeah.
That's not how that works, I don't think.
I
think they
at
might
least
have-
from They don't give you any of the of like he basically wasn't there for Sephiroth to explain anything. You just kind of show up when
Weird.
it happens almost.
Wait, I think that's like a retcon. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on with the story from that point, like really stuck with me. That's when I realized, wait, this is a really good game.
And then Cloud heads off to Olympus Coliseum.
Right. Well, that's at the end of the game. We'll get there. So one thing about this game is that each party member, with the exception of 2 of them because it's missable, they each get like a moment to shine and a moment to prove their worth as a party member.
Yeah, and like there were 1 or 2 of them where you're like, holy shit, this character is a character. Like they have a
Right.
moment,
Um,
like a Kate Sith or whatever.
Ooh,
however you
dude,
pronounce it.
I can't wait to get the Kate Sith section. But for like the first one that you get is Red 13, and
Yeah.
Red 13 comes from this weird cosmic village where they're all about like the live stream and studying it, and very hippy dippy, but like astrological too. Speaking of good like artwork and art direction, that scene where you go into the observatory and you get to see the the solar system in the
Oh, man.
telescope.
It looks so cool.
It looks so cool back then. Like, just another thing, gonna look amazing. But Red 13 has like a chip on his shoulder. He never like liked his dad because he thought his dad left him. So you go through this canyon and you find that his dad died protecting like the city from these ghosts, and he's like turned to stone with a bunch of spears in him. And the camera pulls up and Red 13's howling at him, and like a tear falls from the stone like father. It's so good. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, this is such a good moment for this character that kind of almost doesn't fit in the party sometimes, but like this is a good way to bring him back in and make him like give him some weight.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I remember being like a 5-year-old watching my brother play this game, and I didn't know what was going on, and I always thought Red 13 was just
Cool
Animal-
dog man.
yeah, animal party member to fill a certain niche or whatever. And then I played the game, and he has this entire arc, and I'm like, holy shit, he's like my new favorite person. He's so cool.
And each time you get to one of the backstories, you're like, wait, this is my new favorite character now.
Yeah, seriously.
There's another like so at this point is when I realized, wait, there are missable party members in this game. I could have gotten Yuffie by now.
Oh, Yuffie.
I do not like that. I hope they change that for the remake, and you cannot miss party members. It also sucks because in the FFX cutscenes that are like better rendered, they don't ever show Vincent or Yuffie because they're optional.
Oh,
So it kind
that
of
is
feels like
sad.
they don't fit in sometimes. Like they're never in the very important cutscenes. So
That does make me sad. I want to see because they're two of like the coolest designed characters I feel like in that game.
I got some hot takes about them, but we'll get there. So about like characters' backstories making you like them more. As soon as Sid gets in the party and you find out how he wanted to go to space, but the project got canceled because
Man.
Shira was in like fixing the rocket fuel as it was about to launch, and she's like, "I don't care if I get fried." Well, okay, you're crazy, but you know what? That's a cool story. And
Cool story, bro.
Cool story, bro. That made me really like Sid immediately. At this point is when I headed to Wutai, which is the Yuffie side story,
Yes,
where she
I
like
that
steals all your
village, by the
materia.
way.
Yeah, it looks really cool. A lot of side stuff there that I obviously missed. I was like, I don't know how to even begin some of these side quests. That one is particularly good because you get to hang out with the Turks, which are kind of like the Shinra operatives that are chasing you around. And I found out that if you do the side quest, you don't have to fight them later. And I chose that option because I was like, I really like the Turks, so I don't want to beat them up another time. At this point, you go back to the Golden Saucer, and like something I really liked was the dates. So apparently, you can go on a date with a lot of people in your party, including Barrett, which I haven't talked about Barrett, but he is great. His backstory with Dine, and how he had to adopt Marlene because Dine is like a terrible father who just wants to kill everyone. So yeah, like
But no, Barrett definitely has some of my favorite lines in the entire game, probably.
he's great. And like they kind of apparently he's very different from the Japanese version where he's like more Mr. T in the West, but I thought he turned out great. Like
Yeah, I love him.
he's very likable, and I didn't know, like, again, that's a character I've known about for years. I didn't know how deep he went and like how good of a dad he is, which makes you respect him more. I got the date with Aerith, which was nice. Aerith's whole thing with Cloud, each character has like a different relationship with Cloud, which I like. And hers is like, well, you kind of remind me of Zack, and it kind of weirds me out, but I kind of like you either way. The fact that Aerith has a character, knowing these characters from Kingdom Hearts primarily, I was surprised she had a character at all, and it was like quite a good one at that.
Yeah, because it's not like you see them for 30 minutes in Traverse Town and then never see him again.
Right? And then like she's so deadpan in that game, but she's almost borderline manipulative at some points in this game, which I liked. I was like, wow, you have more to you.
Yeah, and then on that note, I feel like in every single piece of media that Cloud has been in since Final Fantasy VII, they've changed his personality to like this, like just really brooding, edgy, quiet guy. When in Final Fantasy VII, I feel like he has a lot more personality than that.
He's kind of goofy. At one point,
Yeah.
he's like, hey guys, let's mosey, and everyone makes fun of him for being a dork.
Yeah,
He's not like that in Crisis Core either. Like when you meet him in Crisis Core, he's like he's young, but he's still like upbeat and he talks to Zack all the time like he's his best friend. And at the very end, there's a moment with him and he has like a breakdown. You're like, this is like an actual person. He's not like in Kingdom Hearts. It's just
I think
not just Sephiroth Pain.
Cloud is by far the biggest surprise of this game because I had an image of Cloud in my head that was not right. That is not the Cloud that I know. But before getting to that, this is the part where Sephiroth's plan is unveiled, which is like, holy shit, he wants to summon a giant meteor to crash into the Earth so that the life stream can come up and try to heal the Earth so he can absorb it and just become a god. That is like a very crazy plan that's fitting for someone that went insane in the library. Like, I can buy this plan.
but
I
it might
kinda
just
dig it.
work.
And it might just work.
Yeah, that's the thing is, as insane as it is, based on what you learn about stuff like the live stream, like technically his plan is sound, like it would work. Obviously, we want to stop it because we don't want to die, but
And like, there's enough weight to Sephiroth where it's like, I believe that you would pull this off because you think that everything is like, you think that they've ruined your mother and they used her, and you have like revenge and you're one with Genova now. It's all sorts of weird, but you can buy it.
Yeah.
Another surprise is that Sephiroth is a character as well. I thought he was just a brooding guy who says, "Where is Cloud?"
Cloud's heartless.
Yeah, basically. Man, Kingdom Hearts fucked me up for this game. It totally the wrong.
It's sad because
it's the same. Like Nomura was part of the team of FF7.
But at least you kind of get it as a pleasant surprise.
That is nice. God, I have a note here that says Cloud beating the shit out of Aerith.
What?
You might not remember this scene.
No, I don't think I do.
But after they get the black materia, it's the first time where Sephiroth starts like taking control of Cloud because Cloud has Genova cells in him, which lets Sephiroth and Genova control him. So that is a really good angle to this game where you now have an unreliable narrator who is also unpredictable. And he just gives Cloud the black materia that you just worked hard. It's like, hey, the black materia is the only thing that can stop Cloud from summoning Meteor. And your main character just hands it to him. And then he freaks out and he just beats the shit out of Aerith. And it's like, oh my god.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense now.
He pins her to the ground and just pounds on her. It's like, how are you going to adapt this in the remake? I am very interested to see.
I feel like there might be some controversy there. We'll see.
And I like how Barrett at that point like calls him out. It's like, guys, I don't know if we can trust this guy. And it's at this point where like identity is introduced as a theme, and it's a really good theme where Cloud doesn't really understand himself, and it's not until near the end of the game where he does. But not for now, because there's other cool things that happen here. Like there's one point where you're trying to control Cloud. I think it's when you're giving Sephiroth the black materia, and Cloud starts slowly walking up to Sephiroth, and as a player you go like, no, and you try to control him, but like as you control him he like fights back.
Yeah.
I was really surprised that they pulled something off that well from such an old game. Kudos to them. Like a good mechanic gameplay into story combining moment.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get to Aerith's death, which I've seen parts of. I never realized just how good that scene was, because like when you get to watch it all with the context, that is a really good scene, and that's gonna hurt really hard.
I know. I'm really prepared for it to hurt me in the remake.
People think they're going to kill off Tifa instead. I'm just like, yo,
what? That doesn't make sense because Sephiroth has to kill Aerith because she's the only one who can stop his plan with Holy.
Yeah.
Whatever. Let those people be. And Cloud has this line after all this happens where it's like, okay, we don't know if we can trust this guy. And Cloud says, will you guys come with me and stop me from doing something terrible? So it's like, I don't know what I'm capable of. I don't know when he's going to take control of me. I need you guys to come with me because I can't trust myself. And like, that's not at all the Cloud I expected to get out of this game. That is such a heartfelt like line that is so friendship, like it's a message of friendship and trust that I wasn't expecting from a serious character like Cloud.
Yeah, if the only context I had for Cloud was from Kingdom Hearts, I thought he would say, "You need to stay away from me. I'm dangerous," or something like that.
That's exactly it.
Friends.
Oh man, I love Cloud. Like Cloud is one of my favorite protagonists in games now, which again, big surprise. I'm so glad I played this so I could have these revelations. There's also that sequence where he gets Mako poisoning and he's just in a wheelchair and Tifa's just kind of wheeling him around and he looks pathetic, dude. That part is rough.
Yeah, he goes like way up and down in this game.
He goes through it, dude. You feel bad for the guy. And then you fall into the live stream with Tifa, which I think this might be one of my favorite sequences of the game, where it's like very little gameplay and just a ton of story, but you're in this weird inside Cloud's mind room that has like a bunch of small clouds running around and like a giant cloud up in the sky, and as you're piecing his memories together they start fusing into one. It's this weird trippy visual representation of Cloud finding himself, and you get to the kind of confusing plot point where you find out, okay, so Cloud did know Tifa. They were friends, but they weren't that close, which I really like because it's usually like, oh, we were such close friends when we were kids and we got separated.
Yeah.
But the factor was like, no, we were friends, kind of, I was kind of jealous of you. I left to become a soldier so you would acknowledge me, and we kind of felt that distance between us, and we kind of that's when we learned to appreciate that the other was gone. That is such a more mature way to do that.
Yeah, it's so much more nuanced than
I
you
think
would expect.
I think they meet in Nibelheim. I forget. I think.
They grew up. He did grow up in Nibelheim, I think.
Yeah, so like you meet Tifa too in Crisis Core. So
So
you run into her.
this is the point where like you get the second flashback of Nibelheim, which is the true one. So Bradley, you love an unreliable narrator. This was a great example of that. So
Yeah, it's spectacular.
you get that. So Cloud grew up there. He went to become soldier. He failed. He didn't make the first class. He was just a normal soldier. Everything that you saw in that cutscene earlier was Zack, who was actually a badass soldier that Cloud looked up to and was friends with. Um, and Cloud was just a random soldier in that cutscene, like a soldier off to the side
Yeah.
who put on a
Yeah.
helmet because he was too shy.
Yep.
That is
That
really good twist that got me 20 years later. I'm like, oh shit.
And, we're in this kind of whole scene that you mentioned earlier where Cloud's like in this mindscape where we're like kind of exploring his psyche and stuff. And I think in this part of the game is where Cloud like really gets to his darkest moments. And once we kind of finally pull through with it, and we kind of come back to reality and all of Cloud's friends are there, there's like a brief moment of comic relief where Cloud kind of cracks a joke, and I just feel like that gives Cloud so much more personality.
He was a fantastic character because yeah, he comes out of that. I didn't finish the backstory because the confusing part is why does Cloud think he's Zack? And as I recall, let me see if I took a note over it.
That motherfucker crazy.
That motherfucker is crazy. So he was ashamed enough for making it big.
Yeah.
After Zack dies, Cloud saves Tifa and fights off Sephiroth, which was a cool scene because he just chucks that motherfucker off a bridge.
Yeah, he does. He fucking does.
That probably looks really cool in Crisis Core, actually.
Yeah.
So he was confused. So he creates a self-image of himself based on Zack.
Yeah.
It's a mental thing, which I'm sure Crisis Core kind of goes on and touches on.
Yeah. So what it is like what ends up happening at one point is after I think that happened, Zack and Cloud get captured by and get experimented on and get injected with the same kind of cells that Sephiroth does.
Mm-hmm.
And they literally experienced that together in like the same exact room. And then Zack breaks him out, and Zack literally fights the entire Shinra army to protect Cloud to the point where they retreat, but he dies and Cloud takes his sword at that point.
Right.
And,
okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like that more than just kind of like the mental aspect.
The big thing is I think Zack told him that he wants him to like finish the fight, basically, kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it just traumatized him to the point because it was like basically Cloud gets experimented on and then has like a whole bunch of other shit happen to him, and then like the only person that's been protecting him this entire time ends up dying, and so now and being told like, well, now you gotta be me, and like leaves.
I hope they integrate that part into the remake then. I hope you can play as Zack a little bit, and they integrate the memory fusion and their relationship a little bit and kind of streamline that into one story where you don't have to play multiple games.
Yeah. But like that was I remember seeing that part where like you're introduced to the Cloud, and like it's kind of just like random too, where like Zack's just walking along and he's just like, "What's your name?" And he starts talking to this random soldier dude, and he takes off the helmet. Like, "Oh, that's Cloud!"
Holy shit!
Yeah,
that's the boy. So final stretch of the game we hit at this point. You go to space, which I did not know was a thing in this game. Which that's a cool scene because Sid is like the one part of this game where it's like, you know what, science not so bad. Because the game is like, you're an eco-terrorist in this game where like you blow up reactors and kill people for the planet. And they don't really sugarcoat it because there's this one point, I forgot to talk about Kate Sith, or we're going to talk about Kate Sith. I think that was the second biggest surprise of this game. No, I've never heard anyone talk about this character, so I thought he didn't have anything to him. This guy is one of the most interesting characters in the game, where he's actually a Shinra soldier. No, not a soldier. He's a company worker who's controlling this doll and spying on the group, right?
Yeah, I think his name is Reeve.
Yeah, Revis or Reeve, something like that.
Reeve Twesty or something.
Norman Reedus.
Yeah, he's Norman Reedus, and he's got his baby fetus, which is the big doll. Uh, and basically, that comes out mid game, and he's like, "What are you gonna do about it, Cloud? Like, I'm sorry, but you kind of need me." And Cloud is like, I guess." So he's in the party half the game, and you know he's a spy, but he's also kind of like serving as a double spy where he helps you out in certain cases. And there's this scene where it's freaking what's the name of the town that they start in that I'm now blanking on.
Midgar?
Yes, Midgar's getting attacked, and Barrett's like, "We have to go back. Marlene's there." And Kate Sith is like, "Barrett, you're such a piece of shit. You only care about stuff if Marlene is involved. What about that time you blew up the reactor and killed a lot of people?" And he just calls him out on it.
Yeah, that's that exact conversation. I have the quotes right here because it's one of my favorite moments in the game.
Hit me.
And it kind of goes along with how by the end of the game, you kind of have a more objective view on their eco-terrorism because Kate Sith is like, when you blew up the Sector 1 reactor, how many do you think died? And Barrett says, okay, we were doing that for the entire planet. You have to expect a few casualties. Sometimes you got to make some small sacrifices. And he responds, what is a few sacrifices to you is literally everything to the people who died. And like, holy shit, that conversation always stuck with me.
That is so good, and no one talks about this character.
I know, it's
crazy.
insane.
I will be a big fanboy of the Kate Sith because I think that is a great character. And that is a good objective view. It paints both sides as like we're not gonna pretend like Barrett didn't do some fucked up shit. And from our scene from the remake, they have a scene where he's talking in the reactor and he's saying this point of view where it's like, we got to make sacrifices. So I feel like they're not going to get rid of that aspect in the remake, which I'm glad for.
Yeah, I hope we don't get to miss out on any of these amazing moments.
Lastly, we go to the center of the Earth. Or not the center, like it's the inside the planet. It's called the live stream. Yes.
Yeah.
And what happens is just this amazing finale. You get to fight with your entire party versus first like one form of Genova Sephiroth.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. Where you have to switch party members. It's kind of confusing, but it's hype as fuck. And then you fight the legendary final boss I've heard so much about. And
goddamn.
I've seen the attacks in the past. I've known how he looks. With all the context of my 30-hour journey, getting to this final boss, now it clicks. It's like, wait, this is such a cool final boss. He looks amazing. His attacks are rad. The fucking supernova move, man, that is so extra for 1997.
Like, it is huge. It's like an entire cutscene.
Bradley, how are they going to adapt that in the remake?
They need, like, the amount of budget that they had for Avengers just to make that one attack.
I want them to spend 1 month on that attack. It needs that much work. And then you get the final battle, which is Sephiroth tries to take control of Cloud one last time, and you get into this final fight where you have higher quality like models, and you just get to Omni Slash him in the face and one shot kill him, and
it feels very good.
That also needs like at least a whole sprint worth of work, maybe a whole month as well. Just give it all the time.
A whole year.
Whole year. It's fine. This is gonna be an episodic game, so it deserves it. And yeah, that last scene of like the live stream protecting the planet from Meteor, and like you get this last flash of Aerith praying, and it's like, oh god, Aerith, it's all because of you.
Man.
Wow, that was a really powerful. Man, that's such a good game.
This is one of those games where it had probably been out for like 2 decades by the time I played it, maybe a little bit less, but like I always assume that it's just one of those games that it's a classic just because it's a classic. People played it when they were little, and then you play it and you're like, what the fuck, this is actually an amazing game.
I thought it was overrated. I'm so glad I was wrong, and I'm so glad I played it. Now, I said all that. I try to rush it. I skipped so much. That's how much this game has.
Yeah, and even there's so much more aside from just the story.
To say one complaint about this game, because of the materia system, as fun as it is, the characters lose personality in battle. Where I felt like I could just kind of put whatever materia on anyone, stats be damned. So it's like, I feel like in other RPGs, each character has a better niche. So that's one drawback of the materia system, which I'm sure some people would like, but I kind of like the characters having niches. And another thing, so because you can miss out plot lines, I never got to Vincent. So Vincent goes in the bottom of my list. He did fucking nothing in my game. He was I used him for battles, but he was like borderline worthless.
Yeah, and it's a shame because I know a lot of people say that Vincent is their favorite, but that might just be because I think he looks awesome.
Maybe. I mean, I'm not gonna lie and pretend like I saw his side quest, but yeah.
And Yuffie's a babe, so you know.
Okay, I got some bad news for you, Bradley. I'm gonna give you my character rankings.
Oh God,
for
let's
this
see what
game.
we got.
So Cloud goes number 1, which I never thought I'd say. I love Cloud. The way he just gets fucked with the whole game, I love the boy. Tifa gets number 2.
Yeah.
Maybe even number 1. I love Tifa. She's such a ride or die. Like she's always really supportive of Cloud. She's got a fun personality. She punches things. I suplexed Sephiroth with her. I suplexed a god. It was so fun.
Yeah, like Tifa didn't end up just being Mimi big titty Final Fantasy girl. She was a really deep character.
And, we say that, but I doubt like a lot of Final Fantasy girls even are like that. I haven't played enough of them. I'm on a journey, but like I feel like they write good characters, which
they really do.
I'd probably put Aerith as 3rd. I'm gonna make big plays here and put Kate Sith as 4th.
I can accept that.
Then Barrett, then Red 13. No, then Sid, then Barrett, then Red 13, then Yuffie, then Vin. Because let me be real with you, man. Yuffie didn't get to do much because she doesn't get to be part of the main plot that often.
No, you're 100% right. I really hope that they can incorporate these characters more because a lot of people, like a lot of people already love them considering how minor of a role they have in the original game.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they could really do more.
Because the way they work around it is, okay, do you have Yuffie in the party? She's going to say a line here. And one thing that was really cute about her is that she gets really sick while she's in the airship. So you always find her away from the group, like almost throwing up in a corner. And Cloud teaches her to do squats to like keep her body moving. Because when he was in the trucks for Shinra, he would have to do that because he also felt sick. I was like, that's such a cute moment.
That's just really good flavor for the characters, man.
Very flavorful game.
Very flavorful.
I'd probably give it like a 4.5. It's got age, but it holds up still so well, and I feel like it'll always have that score no matter how much time advances. Okay, that was Final Fantasy VII. Y'all got anything?
Jesus. It's a good game.
I'll probably play it at one point.
That'd be Joe. At least you got to play that remake. I feel like if you enjoyed Crisis Core, you're gonna like the rest.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely gonna pick up the remake when it happens. It's just I'm also very hesitant to pick up the remake because it's the same kind of like thing where it's so big and it's taking so long. I don't know if it'll actually ever get finished, kind of deal.
It'll get. I after the E3, I fully trust them at this.
But here's the thing: Kingdom Hearts 3
came out. It was only in development for like 4 or 5 years.
But there's a big gap between Kingdom Hearts 2 and Kingdom Hearts. It's whatever. I think Final Fantasy VII, like the game itself, will just be fun to play, even if it's not a complete experience.
At worst, At worst, it's gonna be like a 1 to 2 year wait between each episode, and there's gonna be like 4 episodes. Like
I think at worst, it's gonna be a 5 to 10 year wait between episodes.
Yeah. I'm just gonna try to hold out.
10 years between episodes? Are you crazy?
No, look at Kingdom Hearts 2 and Kingdom Hearts 3.
Joe, there was like 500 Kingdom Hearts games. They made a game to
Yeah.
explain how Mickey Mouse was shirtless at the end of KH1, okay? It's called
They really
0.02.
did.
They really did. Look it up.
I know.
Look, it's gonna be fine. This is the most beloved game. We'll make a bet over this, and in 3 years, if episode 2 hasn't come out, I owe you $60.
Yeah, you'll buy me my Final Fantasy 7.
There you go. Joe bought me KH3.
We'll do it. This
I'm
is the
just gonna-
thing between you and I.
I'm just gonna try and hold out long enough to see what remastered Golden Saucer and Ruby weapon look like.
Oh man, although I didn't even talk about the weapons, but we're not gonna. I've spent way too much time on this. Let's
No,
move on.
I think we spent the exact right amount of time on
It's
it.
such
Yeah.
it's so good. Even Joe,
Anyway.
Joe hasn't even played it. He had stuff
Yeah.
to say. That's how influential this is.
Anyways, Willard, you've actually convinced me to actually play the game.
Awesome. Get that PS4 version, man. You can
Yeah.
breeze through it.
Yeah, at least it has the like triple speed and skip random encounters.
You
stuff.
could if you want to just experience the world and like not even strategize in fights, you could just always have that infinite mana and HP thing on
True.
as well. Like
It's true.
it's a good way to experience the game. All right.
Like, if nothing else, holy shit, the backgrounds. I just love looking at the art.
I might get it on
Cinematography.
Switch just so I could have it wherever I go and I can play it when I'm traveling or whatnot.
There you
Yeah,
go.
I think Switch has those features, so yeah, you should be good.
I'll see. But yeah,
Okay.
go play
That's-
Final Fantasy 7. You
Go
nerd.
go do it. Go. It's part of being a gamer, so go do it.
If you're gonna be a game journalist, you gotta play Final Fantasy 7.
You got to learn